Hey Dee, today's episode is going to be a wee bit different. We are squeezing this in between planting, tending, weeding, deadheading, trimming, mowing, and a bit of traveling.
So put down your hose, shovels, trowels, clippers, take off your gardening gloves, grab your favorite beverage, and let's enjoy a good old garden gossip today.
I'm Carol, and you know me, I'm from suburban Indianapolis.
And I'm Dee from Oklahoma, outside south of the town of Guthrie.
So are you excited about today's different kind of episode, Dee?
Yeah, I'm always excited about something different.
Yeah. So we are just going to have a good old garden gossip, as we call it. So I wrote some questions we could ask and answer because we honestly didn't have time to do a full episode this week. And this is a rare Wednesday recording.
Yes, and we just recorded on what, Monday? So two for this week, right?
Uh,
No,
uh,
it was Sunday. It was
yeah.
Sunday.
Who,
So
who can
yeah.
remember? So I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay.
So you've been doing a lot of reels on Instagram. What's the last one you did?
The last one I did was on Chelsea chopping, and I'm thinking about doing one today. Bill, had surgery, so he's feeling better today, and I'm going to rope him into videoing me. We'll see how that goes.
Okay. No hint on what the topic is?
No, it's just whatever I decide when I get out there. It might be about
Oh,
ladybugs. What would you like to see a reel on ladybugs?
yes, because I was looking at my SUV. It's in the garage because the battery is dead.
Oh
And
no.
there was a ladybug crawling on it. I'm like, you can crawl all you want. You're not going anywhere till this baby gets a new battery.
That's right. Unless you just gently pick her up and go put her outside, but who has time to do that right now?
I do not have time to do that because I was out in the garage letting in the repairman for my washer, which stopped working, but it's fixed.
You're having quite the week. Lots
I
of things are
am.
dead at your house.
Well, things come in threes. Here's the third thing. My Apple Watch does not want to play anymore.
Oh no. How old is this Apple Watch? How long have you had it?
Well, you talked me into getting it because I saw you wearing it in Atlanta, I think.
Oh my gosh. That is a long time ago.
And so I thought, ooh, I want one too, because whatever Dee does, Carol does.
That is so not true, but Apple Watches were really cool back then. I don't know how cool they are now. I've about decided that when mine dies, I'm just going to get a regular watch. I know
Yeah,
that's hard to believe
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, but I'm kind of over having to charge it and stuff like that. But we're getting way off gardening topics. So the best thing I will say this about Apple Watches: when you're on tour, the Apple Watch is the best thing ever to get you back on the bus because you
Yes.
set an alarm. So I have a question for you that you wrote. What pots of plants are sitting on your deck or patio that you still need to plant, and why?
Well, for the first time in recorded history, Dee, I have nothing left to plant. I have a few zinnia seeds to
What?
sow, and we got that sunflower, that concert bells sunflower from All America Selections, and I decided to start those in that little burpee seed starting thing you turned me on to, which I really, really like, that
I
seed
do love
tray.
those. Yeah.
So I've got 16 of those that are germinating, and just as soon as they've germinated, they're going to go outside. So really, I mean, that's it. I do have a Weigelia out front that I bought for my nephew and his wife because they want one by their front porch. But really, for me personally, I am so far ahead of the game. How about you?
Are you knocking on wood?
Well, I should because today,
Are you going shopping today?
well, Darwin perennials, it's very cool today. It's like in the 70s, but
It's 70s here also, which is very odd.
it is. Anyway, I got an email from Darwin perennials that 3 sample plants are arriving today, and they should have been here by now.
I
So,
need to get back on the Darwin list. Somehow I got off of it, and I really do like their stuff, but it, I don't need any plants. So, do you want to ask me that same question?
what have you got left to plant, Dee? And we know you're going to go out of town and listeners, by the time you hear this, she'll be back. So don't even think about sneaking on to Dee's property, look at her garden behind her back. What have you got left to plant?
Plus, somebody will be living here, so it won't just be me. I should say I'm going to speak in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I'll be back. Hooray! I had everything planted, and
Yes.
I wish I had put my concert bell sunflower seeds in in one of those little deals and sowed them, but I direct sowed them, and the crows ate every one of them. And then I
Oh
did a little
no.
more, and they ate them again. So I have a ton of sunflower seeds. So as soon as we get done, I'm going to run out there and stick those seeds in because usually by now the crows have calmed down. They go through a stage and then they eventually get tired of eating all my seedlings. And then let's see, the only other thing is yesterday I went to Lowe's and they had a Prince Tut papyrus grass and I bought one, so that needs to be put in the pond. So
Those are
because
cool.
I grow those in the pond at the end, and they're kind of hard to find, so I was really excited when I saw it. They look really good in pots too as the centerpiece. So if people listen to this. So, oh my, is this a question for me or you?
Well, it's
Number
sort of a
three.
rhetorical question, and you can substitute any, but if a new gardener comes up and says, I would love to get some of your black eyed Susans. Now, longtime listeners know Dee has been grubbing these things out till the cows come home.
Only gold stern, because this actually came up on our Garden Angeles Garden Club. A lady asked me if a Rebecca she had, a black eyed Susan, was gold stern because she was freaking out. And I was like, no, that's a Rebecca Herta. Rebecca Herta, as you know, has fuzzy leaves. Those are
Yes.
okay. It's the gold stern one with the jaggedy leaves. Anyway, keep going.
Well, you know, so do you try to talk them out of it or do you
Oh,
just
heck yeah.
say, okay,
Do
well, you're
you?
better? Yes, yes, I do. Though I have given some to like my sister, but she said, "Oh, I want it to fill in." And that was a few years ago. And then she's like, "Will you point out which one this coming up is the black-eyed Susans? I need to get rid of them." Well,
Right. So, what's another plant that you would not give to someone if you could? I can think of one right off the top of my head. Obedient
well,
plant.
oh yeah, obedient plant is
I've
one you.
oh, I have it everywhere. And the thing is because it's a native, people say, well, you can't say that that's invasive because there's a difference between invasive and aggressive. But it's extremely aggressive in Dee's garden. Extremely. The purple one.
In my garden. So the summer snowflakes,
Yes. Are they too bad in your garden?
they want to make big clumps and just take over. So I have given some to two of my sisters, and I've said to take makes big clumps and wants to take over. So just kind of
Uh-huh. Keep
pull
an
it
eye
out, or
on
you
it.
don't want it. But you pull it out and you see that big bulb, and you think, do I really want to get rid of this? And the other
Mm.
thing is, make sure to deadhead those.
Yeah, deadhead them. Because they also go by seed, like garlic chives is
Yeah.
the same way. Although I hate garlic chives way more than leucojum. Leucojum's okay in my garden, but garlic chives, I mow that down, I dig it up, I deadhead it, I spray it, I do all the things, and guess what? I still have garlic chives.
Of
I
course
rue
you
the day
do.
I got that one. That one's a
Because
bad one.
you have a green thumb, Dee.
Anybody could grow garlic chives. So do you label your plants?
You know what? I put this on there. Are you pro label or anti label? I will sometimes stick a label in the ground, buy something new, but most of the
Hmm.
time I bring the label inside and then I figure if I really, 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 really want to know what it is in the future, I'll take that tag and go through all the tags and say, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? But
Hmm.
honestly, some of the stuff that we get, it's really hard to know whether it's this one or that one because they look a lot alike.
Yeah, that's really true. I label a lot of my more permanent plants. I had to label my daylilies because I was on that tour.
Uh huh.
I've noticed that some of those labels are gone as they do, and also of them have faded in the background. The interesting thing is, a lot of people don't like labels. I think mine are kind of pretty in summer. In the spring, it makes my garden look a little labely, in my opinion. As I get older, I care less and less about labels.
That's that. Yes. I wrote a post a while back and it's like variety unknown, or I think this might be. Those are the names of my plants now.
Yeah, I don't care so much. And I use the blog a lot to help me remember the names of things because you're right. Some stuff looks very similar. And I promise you, daylilies definitely do.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was working on that talk earlier and I was like, I have this daylily in front of us, Summerific hibiscus, Summerific holy grail. I only know because of the talk. And it has dark purple leaves. And then the daylily looks great in front of it. It's pink and yellow. For the life of me, I have no idea what that daylily is. And I'll have to crawl around in there and find the label. Do I want
Yeah.
to do that? Not really.
Daylilies, hostas, roses. I'm going to add zinnias to the list. I'm going to add coneflowers to the list.
Oh, coneflowers, definitely.
They all you get them, and there's such subtle differences that. And
Uh-huh.
petunias are another one that it's like.
Yeah, I think in our next episode, we're going to talk about growing petunias from seed.
Oh, that's a
And
teaser, D.
it is a teaser. And so I agree that silver success, silver vein, it's a pink petunia, Carol. It's pink, literally. It does have veining. I don't know that they're silver. It's dark purple, but it's a purpley pink petunia. And I looked at it the other day and I thought, well, you're pretty, but you look like every petunia in the world.
And we're going to spoil this topic, but we'll go into more in depth. I bought one of those packets of seeds that was cheap.
Yeah.
It's just like mixed petunias. And
Yeah.
I got about 6 seedlings. That's all I wanted. And I planted those out in these little miscellaneous containers. And I'm like, well, when you bloom, we'll find out what mixed petunias look like.
Right. And so, as another teaser, you will also in that episode, I almost said readers, listeners, you'll find out about climbing petunias. Let's go on to the next question.
So what are you doing with your houseplants now that it's summertime? In or out?
Well, I tried to move out the cactus, the Christmas cacti. They hated it out there. It
Uh-huh.
was too hot for them and they freaked and a bunch of their leaves fell off. And I was like, oh dear. So I moved them back indoors. But a lot of things I've put out in the shade, a lot of like the vining type house plants. What about you? I call it their summer vacation.
Yeah, summer vacation or summer camp.
Yeah.
I did that years ago. I wrote about summer camp for plants. Well, I had this Swedish ivy that was just darn near non-existent because of mishandling, mistreatment by me. So
Mm-hmm.
I pulled that out and I put it in a hanging basket out front. And I thought, you're either going to grow and become something or you're not. But I need to make a sweep through the various house plants, and some of them, it's like they've been inside too long. They need some fresh potting soil. They
Need
just
some
need
fresh air.
that's all the above. So I'm going to take some of them outside in the back. But the other day up the greenhouse, I had a plant
Oh no.
emergency. Well, it was a potting soil emergency.
I've
It
had
was on
several of those this year. Yeah.
it was on Sunday, and we had a huge thunderstorm right after you and I had recorded. And once the thunderstorm moved out or whatever, I went up to the greenhouse and I was the only customer. And I says, "Oh my, I'm the only customer here." But they were open. By the time I left, the whole front lot was full again. I said, "Everybody just waiting for the rain to end." And anyway, I was minding my own business when this you know what wire vine is?
Oh, I love wire vine. Wire vine is one of our happiness plants for Oklahoma in the summer in pots because you can't kill it. And there's different types. Did you know that?
Well, I bought the one they had there. I don't know what type it is, but it's got a little wire loop that they got these from a place up in Michigan. They go up there every spring, and it's like topiary type plants and stuff. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
it's in a really nice pot, so I don't have to repot it or anything. But have you seen the blooms on those?
I've never seen it bloom because I don't take it into my greenhouse, but I've heard it does bloom.
It almost looks like little. I'll have to take a picture, and maybe that'll be the picture for the newsletter. It's hard to
Hmm.
describe this bloom, except to say it looks like if you took like little drops of plastic and put them together. That's what it looks like. It's the most bizarre looking thing.
Yeah, please take a picture.
I mean, it almost looks like fake. And
Not real.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I thought, well, I'm getting that because that flower is just too unusual.
But it won't flower outside, right? Isn't it just flowering because it was in the greenhouse over winter?
You know what? I don't know.
Well, I'll just say this. We all grow it in Oklahoma like crazy, and I have never seen it flower outside in the summertime. Our friend Beth Teal, who listens to us, she grows every type of wire vine that I think there is. And she also brings it in winter. So she will probably comment on this podcast and tell us when she catches up because she knows a lot about wire vine, a lot more than I do. I just use it as a really tough plant for my pots.
Well, I'm using it. I'm just bought it because of the unusual flower. I didn't go to the greenhouse because I thought I need wire vine now. Honestly, I didn't.
It is so popular here in Oklahoma that you cannot find it right now. Everybody's sold out.
Well, I got to do more looking about it because I didn't even know there were different types.
Yeah, there's different types. One has big leaves, one has small. I don't know. Anyway, what next?
Let's talk about fairy gardens. Oh, you're not very into fairy gardens, are you?
No, I think they're twee, as the English say. Too twee. Well, although they love fairy gardens.
I found some little fairy garden stuff in a box in the garage. So I set them up by the couple of trees out front just to see if anybody noticed.
I mean, I will say I like the little doors that people put on trees. I think those are cute. I hate garden gnomes. I had to crack up because you influenced Debbie Clem, who lives here, to buy the Duluth overalls. Okay.
Yeah.
And she called me the other day and chatted for a good 20 minutes about how much she loves those overalls. And I was like, okay, send those in to get them permethrin bonded or spray those suckers because you're wearing them in the garden all the time. She bought the garden gnomes and she was so excited about it. And she was like, Dee, you have got to have garden gnome overalls too. Because I don't know why. And
so they have little garden gnomes all over them?
They have garden gnomes on them. There's a fabric with garden gnomes. And I hate garden gnomes. They creep me out. So I didn't tell her that. So when she listens to this podcast, she'll call me and crack up laughing.
I got the
because
green
she was so excited. I didn't want to ruin her moment. So I just didn't say anything. I figured you got Mr. Green Jeans.
I got the green ones. And I think that I have literally worn them every single day since I got them, washing them at night. Today it's cool on, I'm messing around with all these repairs. So I haven't worn them. Now I didn't send them into Insect Shield, but I'll tell you that I am wearing the Insect Shield socks. And last year I complained about chigger bites all the time around my ankles.
You don't have any, do you?
I don't get any chigger bites. And I'm like, well, that's worth the price of the socks.
Yeah, I put on I think I only put on the shirt and the socks the other day to work in the garage when I was putting together the Vigo garden beds. And I had no mosquitoes bother me. And I thought, oh, well, that's worth it because the mosquitoes, we've been having so much rain, the mosquitoes are fierce. So they're good for lots of things besides ticks. And by the way, as long as we're saying that affiliate code is DNASH RDR. It gets you 15% off. All right, keep going.
Well, and we don't have an affiliate code for Duluth, but we do love those overalls.
And we don't have an affiliate code for Vigo Gardens either.
No.
But I do love those.
No.
Okay, keep going.
So
next?
I just want to say that here's another question for you. Let's say you bought a rose or 3 roses that you thought were going to be a nice yellow. And it turns out they're kind of a goldish yellow and they fade to peach. And it is totally not the color you want in your front garden. What do you do?
I know this because Carol and I talk on the phone all the time, and which I can't believe we do since we talk all the time anyway. I would pull those suckers out, Carol, and buy what I want because you don't like them. You hate them, so you need to buy.
I didn't say hate. I didn't say hate. I just thought, well, that's not the color I wanted there.
And are you going to tell them what it is just so that they know that it's not, it is a golden yellow instead of a
Well, it's Rise Up
yellow?
Amberness, which you reminded me of the name. I thought, oh, what's the name of this thing? I got to go look it up. It was Rise Up Amberness, and I bought 3. And I got to tell you, 2 of them are probably in a little bit more shade than they probably should have, but the one just does really well. But I am going to move those to the back somewhere, and I'm going to try to find a good yellow.
Yeah, the truth is yellow roses that are truly yellow, like more on the, I guess, sulfur side or lemon yellow, they are harder to find than golden yellow, especially in climbers. And I sent you to Teresa Byington because I was like, if anybody knows, it'd be Teresa. I am not as familiar with roses as I once was. And you know how I can tell? I listened to one of her podcasts yesterday on the Rose Chat podcast, and
Yeah.
she was talking to this guy about container garden roses, and they started discussing what they called old roses. And you know what? They were all roses I grew. And I thought, gosh, I am so out of style. But I'm getting back in style because I bought a bunch of new ones. But here's the thing, if you want something very specific for a color area, I think sometimes you should pull it because maybe Wanda Phlox, for example, which is a bright hot pink, would not look really as good as, say, fashionably early, what is it? Fashionably early flamingo, which is a lavender purple. Say you wanted
Right.
one color over the other, that's a big difference. And phlox is definitely that way. Sometimes phlox colors do not look anything like they look in the picture.
Yeah. And that's an argument for saying you like to buy and
So,
plant stuff in the early spring and fall before it's blooming. But that's an argument to say, I'd like to see the bloom on this, please.
right. I had a lady call me yesterday and she wanted, which phlox did she want? Mini Pearl, which is also a short phlox like Wanda, like that flamingo. And she said, I want it with my Wandas because it's white and pink will be pretty. And I said, well, here's the problem. They don't bloom at the same time. And I sent her a picture of both of them. I said, one's blooming now, one bloomed 3 weeks ago. And that's another reason sometimes to buy stuff in bloom. It just depends.
Which reminds me, we're going to talk about June in the garden, but June in the garden here this is when daylilies start to bloom. And I actually had
Here too.
a big daylily bloom that I don't know what it is, but I got it at Soul's Garden, which is the daylily place up the way. And they
Been
said
there.
they're about 2 weeks early on some of the daylilies are starting to open.
Hmm. We were 3 weeks early on roses, but interestingly, we are right on time for daylilies because it's cooled off and we've
Yes.
had a lot of rain. So it's interesting how that weather can change things around.
Yes. So June does mean daylilies, and I could go up there and get into a lot of trouble as the daylilies bloom because you like to see them in bloom. And when you see them in bloom, you're
Hmm.
like, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one. And the prices aren't on those daylilies. The prices are
Nope.
on their little sheet that they have up front. So you kind of have to like, oh, I just pointed to a $50 daylily. I don't think I wanted it quite as much as I thought I wanted it.
Right, or a $200 daylily. And
What?
here's one of those, I know. Here's one of the caveats about daylilies too. If you're a true daylily collector, which I'm not sure I am anymore. Oh, I know that seems strange, but I love them, but I think I have enough. Don't tell Bill that. But if you're a true collector, if you buy a $200 daylily, one that's just come out from your favorite hybridizer, because that's when they're that
Yeah.
much, that one will probably die over the $5 one.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works. And so sometimes it's better, in my opinion. This will get me in trouble with the Daylily Club, but in my opinion, it's better to wait a year or two because then that daylily comes down to $35 and you know it's a good one. And go see it in someone's garden. That's why we're getting ready to have the big daylily tour in Oklahoma, the national tour, which I won't be at because of alpha gal syndrome. There's too much food involved. But it's a wonderful trip because you get to see stuff in bloom in people's gardens, really
Right.
well grown stuff. And that's when those are the daylilies you want to choose. You want ones that grow way up out of the foliage, bloom way up out of the foliage, have lots and lots of buds. high bud count, good branching. Don't buy something because of a pretty face.
Exactly. And I was going to say the other thing that's hostas is something. It's good to see a hosta,
Oh,
and that, but it's hard sometimes for us amateurs when it comes to hostas to see the
to know what's good.
differences. But
Hmm.
the
I
Hosta
agree.
Society here is having the garden tour is for the first time open to the public. I think it's June 8th and 9th. Sounds right. Or 7th and 8th. I don't know. Somewhere that
Hmm.
weekend. But one of the people that's done a lot of hybridizing here in Indianapolis, he's opening up his maybe this weekend, and he'll have a lot of his own personal varieties for sale. So anyway, I'm not that much into hostas to go buy a bunch like that, but
Me neither. I mean, I like hostas just fine, and they're great in the right application, but they don't really love Oklahoma, and so you're better off growing some other things in the shade with them. Let's put it that way.
yeah. So now that it's June, my lettuce is going to be bolting. It's already started to bolt, so I need to pull it out. Like I think I mentioned last week, the radish is bolted. But I did something that I think is kind of dumb, and maybe it's not kind of dumb. I don't know. The spaces between the lettuce rows is where I put all my onion seedlings, and I
Yeah,
grew
I
like
do that.
6 varieties. Well, when I pull that out, the onions aren't going to take that much room, and I need more space for growing green beans.
Can't you just put the green beans between the onions
Yes,
where the lettuce
but
was?
yes, but yes, but
But
they say that for whatever reason, green beans and onions do not play nice together in the garden. And
oh,
it's something like a chemical that the onions give off stunts the growth
hmm.
of the green beans. But I read some
What
stuff and
about
then I
what
don't
about
know.
squash? You
What
could
about
put
squash?
squash there. You could put squash between the onions. Put a couple of
Well,
hills of squash.
yeah, but I already planted the squash in another part of the garden.
What about cantaloupe? You could put cantaloupe in there and let it
You
run
know,
through the
I
onions.
I'm just gonna I actually thought about transplanting some of the onions. They're not growing very fast, but we'll
Well, you
see.
could do that. I don't know. My onions are starting to bulk up, so I leaned over their stems. Broke their stems.
Mine are. I did them from seed. You did yours from seed, right?
I did some from seed and I did some as bulbets. I did both. And then on top of that, I also did a bunch of hardneck garlic and a bunch of garlic scapes are there. So I need to take off the garlic scapes and saute them for dinner tonight.
Yum. Well,
Doesn't that sound good?
I'm gonna clear out. We've had a bunch of rain, so I need to clear out the last of the lettuce, clear out the radishes, see how much space is really between those onions, see what those onion seedlings are really doing, and then I'll decide. And I may just say, I don't care that they don't play together. They're just gonna have to play together.
They might have to. And let's see what happens. Just don't plant all your beans there.
Oh
I
no,
have beans in one, two, three, four places right now. And I saved back this one. It says Muscat bush beans. It's an AAS winner, all American selections. I saved this one back because I thought you don't need that many beans coming due at one time. And then I also still have the lupinos, which I've not planted yet because I read about the lupinos and you have to cook these carefully. Did we talk about this?
we did not. Tell us about this, Dee.
Well, this is as much as I know about it. So they're almost like eating edamame. They're a snack in Italy, but they're poisonous or something if you don't boil them right. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that
I'm not
seems like
growing
way too
those.
much trouble.
I'm
It's
not growing them.
Lupinus albus. I'm going to read them again and then decide. But right now, I'm kind of like, maybe not.
Yeah,
I bought Barlados from Kitchen Garden Seeds to replace them, and they'll be a good replacement if I
yeah.
need a replacement.
Well, and I've
So
planted 3 varieties so far, and I have 3 more to plant. But like you said, you don't want to plant all your green beans at once because that's a lot of green beans if they all come in.
yes, and even if I freeze some of them, it'll still be a lot of green beans. So, and since Bill doesn't like to eat anything except for Blue Lake, and I don't know that I grew any Blue Lake this year, but we're not going to tell him because there are other beans that are like Blue Lake. But then
Yeah,
when he says, "Oh, these Blue Lake are so good," I said, "Aren't they though?"
yes, Yes, that's exactly what I was going to tell you to do. Just like that. Just call Beans Blue Lakes and nobody's the wiser.
There's no reason to upset his little apple cart. I
No.
am terrible. I really am. So,
Okay.
listeners, this is what conversations between the two of us on the phone when one of us is driving somewhere. That's usually when we call each other on the phone.
Yes. So what are you reading right now?
I'm finishing up a book called The Ghost Keeper. And then while I'm on my little vacation, I am taking this book by C.S. Harris. It's called What Cannot Be Said. And it's a Sebastian St. Cyr series, which I've read from the very beginning. They're mysteries, they're historical mysteries, and I love them. So this is the new one that came out. And I'm taking that with me on my trip. I'm glad you asked me so I got it off my bookshelf. What are
Very
you
good.
reading?
So I finished up another Agatha Raisin. I think I finished 26, Dishing the Dirt.
Aren't
And
you tired of them yet?
you know what?
I got tired at like number 8 and let it go.
So here's the thing about it. Yes, it is quite predictable, but it's also in that predictability is rather soothing.
Yes, that's true.
Mrs. Bloxby at the vicarage and, Agatha and her staff has changed and, it's just characters come and go and come back and it's just relaxing. I'm also finishing up Scent of Water by Elizabeth Goudge, which I got to admit, the first chapter or two took me a little bit to get into, but now that I'm into it, I want to get it finished. Now, I joined that virtual book club and there's a Zoom today at 3:00 to discuss that book. And right
Are
now
you going to make it?
well, it's 1:45 and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. So I thought, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make the Zoom because I don't want it to be spoiled.
Right. I can see that. So we've been reading The Ghost Keeper in the Well Read Mom deal, and I don't remember who wrote it. It took me till almost halfway through the book before I liked it. It was that hard. She kept going in and out of the past and skipping around, and it was just, it was very hard to read. And then I got to the middle and it suddenly hit right, and then it was great. And it's a very strange book because he is a Jewish, it's set in World War II, most of it. He is a Jewish person of Austrian descent, and he ends up in the United States for the war. He's one that escaped, a Jewish person who escaped.
Right.
And his wife escaped and his child escaped. And it's more about what happens when you escape and then you decide to go back to your country after the war. And so I thought it was a really interesting view, and I'm almost finished with it. I'll probably finish it tonight. And it's worth reading, but it was a hard read. So I'm glad I read it though. That's been kind of this year in Well Read Mom. Everything was hard, but every one of them I finished, which was 90% of them, I'm really glad I finished it. Book clubs.
Good.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I did give a very serious look at The Illustrated Guide to Practical Gardening by this week's Lost Lady, Josephine von Miklos.
Wow.
And you'll have to read about her, but she grew up in Austria.
Interesting.
Married a Hungarian baron who had a castle.
Ooh, fun.
Came to the United States in 1930 to visit her brother. Never went and said, I love America. Goodbye, Austria. Goodbye, husband in Hungary. She had a PhD in art history. And so she was a photographer. She was a designer. She had a couple of patents for perfume bottles designs.
Boy, she was interesting. I hear those castles are really cold, and Hungary is a very cold country, and so is Austria. So perhaps she liked the weather better here.
Well, she ended up in Pound Ridge, New York. And
it's so cold.
She wrote 4 books on gardening, which is how she ended up being a lost lady of garden writing. But she also wrote a book called I Got a War Job. I think that's what it was called. Back in the when the war broke out. She didn't feel like she should be a fashion designer and, rather frivolous. So she went to work in a munitions plant.
Huh.
Wrote a book about it. And then according to her obituary, she actually built her own house.
She probably did.
But if you delve a little deeper, it's like she did the finished woodwork on it.
Oh, well, I mean, I helped build my house. You know, when we remodeled the whole house, I had sheetrock on my head and I helped saw things and 2x4s. I did it, but I had help with Bill
Yeah.
and Bill's sister Carla. So we got it done, but we did every stick of it ourselves. It was awful.
And then I was reading about an article about her that says when she was 10, she got her first camera and they would go hiking in the Austrian Alps and she would take pictures of wildflowers. And all I could think of is the hills are alive with the
Hills Are
sound of
Alive,
music.
which was the tour we were on last year. It was the tour for The Sound of Music, basically. It's called, I think, Sounds of the Danube or something like that, or Melodies of the Danube. It was fabulous. But like I've said before, the funny part is the people in Austria don't know that movie at all.
No, no.
And so they're all excited about Princess Cece. And we were and I knew who Princess Cece was because I was watching a show over here that was dubbed. It was just a fortuitous event. But we were all like, you mean you haven't heard Julie Andrews dance around on the mountain singing The Hills Are Alive? And they're like, no. I was like, no Christopher Plummer? No,
No singing Edelweiss?
no, no. It's a purely American movie, although it is about real people. And they did get married, but they did not have a big wedding. And we saw where they got married. It was not in that church, but we also saw the church that's in the movie. So that was a really fun day on that trip. I enjoyed
That
it
does sound fun.
very much.
So I've already got the next lost lady picked out for 2 weeks from today. You want a hint?
Sure.
Central Park.
So she must have worked with, what's his name?
Nope.
Different thing about Central Park. It's a big place. There could be a lot of things about Central Park with a lost lady.
That's true. So anyway, that is the 10 questions. The last question was, any final thoughts for this good old garden gossip?
You know what? I don't think I have any final thoughts for it other than I love June. June is one of my favorite times in the garden of the year. June and September, late September and October. And I think I'm just going to enjoy the heck out of it. And I'm doing a lot more vegetable gardening this year, which I had been tapering down, but now I'm back because I eat a lot more at home.
There you
go. So what do you have any last thoughts?
It's a cool week. And once I get that car battery and the watch all straightened out, I need to head out and take advantage of this nice cool weather to get more weeding done.
Cool. So we want to thank all of you for listening to this good old garden gossip episode. Check out our newsletter for how to support us, etc.
And now you can put down your beverage, grab your gardening gloves and your gardening tools, and get back to work in your garden.
Because you know there is work to do.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.